President Trump himself has made the Nelson Mandela comparison, recently writing on Truth Social, quote, "If this partisan hack wants to put me in the clink for speaking the open and obvious truth, I will gladly become a modern-day Nelson Mandela. It will be my great honor." That partisan hack comment was one of Trump's countless attempts to provoke the judge, Juan Merchan. But if you really watch the judge throughout the trial pretty closely, it's clear that he is bending over backwards to deliver fair rulings, including for Trump, for example. The judge excluded crucial exhibits that the prosecution badly wanted in, such as playing the infamous Access Hollywood tape. He was quick to dismiss potential jurors who showed any type of bias against Trump. This was during jury selection. He limited what prosecutors could question Trump about should he decide to take the stand. And even today, Judge Merchan rejected 2 of the 3 gag order violations that prosecutors had sought. And what's more, he made it clear that he doesn't want to send Donald Trump to jail, telling the former president in open court, quote, "I do not want to impose a jail sanction and have done everything I can to avoid doing so, but I will if necessary. The last thing I want to do is put you in jail. The magnitude of such a decision is not lost on me, but at the end of the day, I have a job to do." It's pretty clear that the judge is telling the truth on that point, at least that point. But is Donald Trump looking to force the judge's hand? That's my question. Let's see if my next guest can answer it. Scottie Nell Hughes, a former Trump campaign surrogate, conservative political strategist. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. I just don't get it. He's poking the bear. Is he looking to be locked up?
Well, absolutely, he's poking the bear. And I agree with you. The judge does have a job to do. The question is, what exactly is that job? Now, listen, we have to look at this latest gag order that the judge has found him guilty of. Initially, the judge put out there the only reason why he was putting Trump under a gag order is that he could not talk about potential jurors, he couldn't talk about anybody in the staff of the courtroom. He couldn't talk about witnesses, intimidation. And yet this latest count had nothing to do with that. This count has to do with the judge himself, because Trump went on air and said that the judge had done it speedily, that it wasn't fair how the jury was being picked, and 95% of them were Democrats. So this latest criticism, this latest violation for $1,000 that the judge did wasn't about protecting the witnesses. It was about protecting his own skin. And I think that right there just shows what the judge is really trying to accomplish.
He, as soon as he was fined the last time, he took down some Truth Social posts. He's understanding the gravity of what this is. But walk it out. Let's game it out. What would actually happen if the former president were sent to jail a day, a week, a weekend? How would voters react? On the left, on the right, independents in the middle? What would happen?
Well, I think it's pretty easy to see, considering every step of the way that this legal prosecution has been for the last year, that it would definitely boost Trump, and it would boost his poll ratings, because once again, people are relating to this as being their own. They're finding some way to actually see that Donald Trump, what's happening to him, is actually something that's happened to them, whether it be being unfairly audited by the IRS, business regulations that have put them out. They are finding Trump is being able to very crafty this whole message of it's not me they're coming after, it's you, and they're using me as a vehicle I'm the only thing that's standing between you and a corrupt government. But also, to the side of it, you have to look at Trump thinking that this is just, once again, another chance for this judge to show himself for being what Trump has constantly said he is, just a Democrat playboy.
I will just say, if you look carefully at the rulings, you see he's not this corrupt political hack that Trump calls him to be, but that's a discussion for another day. Scottie Nell Hughes, thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.